Good morning. Welcome back to Encyclopedia.zone. My name is Don Jolly, freelance writer living and working in Brooklyn, New York. My work has appeared in Penthouse Magazine, the Los Angeles Review of Books, the Revealer Magazine, among others. And today I'm going to be reading a new piece entitled The Report on the Feasibility and Desirability of Robot Jocks. All right, let's talk about the report from Iron Mountain on the possibility and desirability of peace. This is the Delta edition from 1967. This was given to me by my good friend Doug Skinner. Excellent book. According to U.S. News and World Report in 1967, when this report was published, this is the book that shook the White House, and I could see why. Written in 1967, the report from Iron Mountain is a bone-dry satire of morbid government and think tank studies, claiming to be a summary of research produced by a secretive body of scientists, academics, and professionals convened by the Pentagon to seriously investigate the possibility and the threat of lasting global peace. The report claims to be the result of running complicated peace games on computer systems of the time, a handy out which allows this rather gargantuan subject to be addressed with minimal citation of actual sources. The report is, after all, satire, and satire of the best sort. Putting aside the fact that no computers were engaged in its composition, and it is the work of one man, satirist Leonard Lewin, rather than a secret cabal, the report from Iron Mountain is a wholly cogent and convincing argument. War is not, as is widely assumed, primarily a policy utilized by nations to extend or defend their expressed political values or their economic interests, says the report, in the summary of its findings. Readiness for war characterizes contemporary social systems more broadly than their economic and political structures, which it subsumes. War, in other words, is the primary organizing factor of modern civilization, and perhaps ancient civilization as well. Economically, the report quotes David Basilton, writing in commentary in 1962. War, he says, creates artificial demand, the only kind of artificial demand, moreover, that does not raise any political issues. War provides the most useful of economic tools to the nation states that wage or prepare for it, an ability to stimulate industry to an unlimited degree with the ironclad justification of protecting the nation from existential threat. Politically, the report argues, the basic authority of the modern state resides in its war powers. Different nation states claim their differences by right of their military authority. War also provides for the basic motivation for primary social organization, the report contends. It allows the physically weaker older generations to eliminate their children if they pose a threat, and the military also provides an indispensable solution to the perennial problems of social dissidence and delinquency. Culturally, war inspires the most meaningful works of art, peacetime art being directionless, abstract, and vague. Scientifically, it serves an indisputable role as a driver for new discoveries and their technological applications. The Vietnam War alone has led to spectacular improvements in amputation procedures, blood handling techniques, and surgical logistics, according to the report. It has stimulated new and large-scale research on malaria and other parasite diseases. It is hard to estimate how long this work would otherwise have been delayed, despite its enormous non-military importance to nearly half of the world's population. War works, in other words. It drives the financial and cultural and scientific engines of our society and furnishes our governing structures with their essential credibility. Peace, then, poses an existential threat to this society. It is necessary that we be at war or under threat of war forever. Keep in mind, of course, that this was written in 1967 when the United States still had serious geopolitical rivals capable of matching its military expenditures. Obviously, our society realigned with the fall of the Soviet Union, and we have been living ever since in a more enlightened age. The report evaluates many plans for peace, dismissing them all as inadequate or unfeasible to one degree or another. But there is one peace plan that the report does not address. It appears in the plot of Stuart Gordon's low-budget 1990 film, Robot Jocks. Robot Jocks takes place in a world barely recovered from the Third World War. The population has been significantly reduced by nuclear exchange, leading the world's governments to propagandize heavily in favor of pregnancy. In the film, war has been replaced with a new system meant ostensibly for settling international conflicts. Giant stop-motion robots, piloted by the titular robot jocks, confront one another in gladiatorial contests. In truth, however, this system addresses many of the report from Iron Mountain's problems concerning the function of war and the unfeasibility of peace. First, the culling of population has solved many of the issues which war addresses sociologically and in terms of population. War itself has become the existential threat from which governments derive their authority and the recency of nuclear exchange has allowed a heavily propagandized police state to assume reassuring control of the population, to the degree that pregnancy may be encouraged by the state, and a certain degree of eugenic control exercised with public approval, producing the mutant robot pilots who threaten the job of our protagonist robot jock. The robots themselves, huge unwieldy machines which fight in gladiatorial contests complete with spectators, serve as a flywheel of unlimited artificial economic demand and a driver of scientific research. The report concludes that ritual bloodletting is one of war's most important functions, and the robots fulfill that too. Often spectators and pilots are wiped out by the stray fire of toppling of robots, providing both entertainment value to those spectators who survive and bloody authority to the nation-state governments responsible for organizing the fights. Thankfully, of course, our society has come a long way from the Cold War nightmare that inspired the report from Iron Mountain. The Washington Post did not publish an editorial last week accusing Mitch McConnell of being a Russian agent, presumably to summon some specter of that old Cold War era paranoia. The World Trade Center is still standing. I do not know anything about the temperatures required to melt steel beams, and the United States has not been at war for as long as I have been alive with concepts like drugs and terrorism that cannot actually be defeated. It's good that none of that happened, because otherwise I'd look at the dystopian post-nuclear world of robot jocks and think, gee, that looks pretty good.